Hi, I'm Chloe Mustaki. I play for the Irish women's soccer team and also part of the Bristol City women's setup. A couple of months ago, myself and Owen Murphy, one of Kilkenny hurlers, met at Nolan Park, home of Kilkenny GA, so that was great. I learnt a bit of hurling off him, and then we went down to a soccer pitch and he took some shots on me in goal, so it was great experience, really enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing the outcome of the video now in a few weeks' time. I can't divulge too much, but it should be good. Really overwhelming 10 days in a positive sense. Obviously 2 wins from 2, which is fantastic. Qualify for the World Cup playoffs and even managed to skip the first round of that. So all in all, probably couldn't have had a better outcome from the 10 days. So delighted, just winding back down now and then go again in 3 to 4 weeks. This time around we had very little time to prepare for the Finland game and Slovakia game. Usually we like to have maybe kind of at least 5 days training leading into a first game. I think we all reported in on a Sunday evening and then the game was on the Thursday evening. So between needing to kind of recover from most of us had played on the Saturday and Sunday to then being primed and ready to play an international game on the Thursday, it was actually mostly about recovering well. And thankfully, Vera has a very good understanding of that, and so do our physios and our medical staff. So we did very little on the pitch and was mostly kind of looking at videos, analysing Finland, analysing ourselves, having played them first time around. So yeah, mostly just about recovery and tactical play, really. We were lucky to play that game against Finland at home. It set us up well then going away to Slovakia in the sense that we had all our family and friends there in Tallaght Stadium, which was really special. And Vera allowed us the time that evening to spend with them after the game. And then, when we got back to Castleknock Hotel, the music was on in the dining hall. So we had some ice cream there and everything. So we did get to unwind for a bit, and then we had a day off on the Saturday as well. And then then Sunday was like straight back into preparation against Slovakia. So no, it was nice to kind of have, as I said, friends and family and a bit of downtime before kind of gearing up for a big game again. I think, to be honest, the relief came after the Finland game. Somehow I think going into the Slovakia game, we were weirdly, quietly confident that we would finish the job off. But I think the nerves coming into the Finland game, because we hadn't qualified for the playoffs yet, we still had a job to do. We still needed a victory from those 2 games at least. So I think the outpour of emotion really came after the Finland game, and then it was hard to kind of gear ourselves up again to go against Slovakia, but we were so happy and delighted after the Finland game that we just knew now we had an opportunity to be able to skip even the first round of the playoffs. I mean, something we really never thought we'd get to. So we just the support that we've had has just been absolutely fantastic, and that really allowed us to go into the Slovakia game feeling confident that we would get another result from that. When you play an international game like that, there's so many emotions that come into play. I mean, nerves, excitement, worry. We've been working towards qualification for over a year now, and I think when it's all in your hands, it's almost harder because if you slip up, it's down to yourself and not to other results not going your way. So I think as well, playing in front of a home crowd, it does help, but it also does add a bit of pressure because you're in front of your friends and family who don't often get to see you at international level because, as I said, so many games are away. So, yeah, I think there was definitely a lot of emotions running around the place mentally before that Finland game. And then you could see, like as we walked around Tallaght thanking everyone after, it was just, people crying, people laughing. Just couldn't believe that we had actually qualified for the playoffs. I mean, making history. So, yeah, and then look, obviously you experience that both kind of from a physical perspective and a mental perspective, and then, obviously you peak and then you got to go down somewhere, and then to be able to kind of peak again a few days later, I think just naturally it's a very difficult thing to do, but Vera was very aware of that and tried to manage our emotions after the few days after the Finland game leading up to the Slovakia game.
During the season, are you put under a strict diet to help with your muscle growth?
I wouldn't say it's a strict diet. We have nutritionists, thankfully, with Bristol City, for example, and so we are guided towards what we should be eating at what time of the day. Specifically protein, obviously, as athletes, we need to make sure that we're getting regular intakes of protein throughout the day, and then specifically after massive exertions like a 90-minute game.
Protein is important in your diet. Can you talk us through the benefits you gain personally?
Yeah, probably muscle growth firstly, and making sure you have enough muscle mass, both kind of to avoid injury, but then also to be able to sustain large amounts of exercise, which we do every day. But then also through muscle repair. Obviously, we're in a pitch session in the morning and then a gym session in the afternoon, at least 4 times a week. So it's a lot on your muscles. So being able to get a good amount of protein in after those sessions does allow for muscle repair when you're breaking those muscles down through exertion.
What's the thing that helps most when resting your body when it's sore after practices and games?
Yeah, well, having the feet up mostly is what we do kind of after a tough day. But thankfully we have access to a sports massage therapist at Bristol. Then we have the likes of ice baths for after games. We have Normatec boots, compression, all of the above definitely helps, depending on how your body is feeling. But we have access to all of those things. But usually, after a tough day, just making sure you get the feet up for a couple of hours to go again the next day. I usually only do it after a game. I spend probably a total of 10 minutes now. I probably do a minute in the ice bath and then a minute in the hot bath. We're really, really lucky at Bristol. We have all that available to us. So we do, a minute in the ice bath and then a minute in the hot bath, and then we keep alternating for 10 minutes. So not many people enjoy ice baths. It's totally a personal decision, and we're not forced to do them, but I find a lot of benefit from doing them after a really, really tough game. And so lucky to have the facilities to use them. So we're actually back in 3.5 weeks, which is crazy, but also good because we keep the momentum building. If it was in a few months' time, we'd probably lose the momentum that we've had for the past couple of weeks. So now we all go back to our clubs. I think we have about 4 games to play before we come back in. So just straight back into training. Most of us, if not all of us, are in a professional setup now, which is fantastic. Just training with our club, playing games the weekends, and then straight back in 3.5 weeks. We've gotten into the habit now with the girls to go for coffee and a treat after training. We'd be in, as I said, for a pitch session and a gym session. Your body would be pretty tired after, so just being able to go sit in a really nice coffee shop, have a nice coffee and maybe a slice of cake or anything like that. I think, as I said, most people that know me as well know that I'm a real people person. My biggest source of happiness in life is the relationships that I have. So I think the hardest part about moving away from home is being away from your friends and your family. I get to speak to my family a lot, but what I do really miss is having, a night in with my friends, all sitting in a sitting room with some food, cooking together, having some treats together and just catching up. I do really miss that. Obviously I speak to them from time to time, but just having the chats with the girls, I really do miss that. I'm hugely grateful to Vera for everything that she's done for me over the past number of years. As you said, she called me up to the senior squad back in 2019. Then obviously a few months later, unfortunately, I tore my ACL. But from a mental perspective, she was a massive help to me throughout that year and a half. She always checked in on me regularly to see how I was doing. She gave her input that she could. And she kept me calm throughout the process. She reminded me that I would get back to that level at some point, which is what I needed. And hearing it from, a physio is great, but then hearing it from an international manager whom you want to prove yourself to is even better, because you know that she's keeping an eye on you and that she will give you that opportunity when you're ready. So I really did appreciate that at the time. And then, from a playing perspective, obviously I'm a defender, but she's allowed me to kind of develop my offensive side as well. So, going forward as a wing back, that's a really important thing to do. So I've been able to kind of work on that as well, while she's been manager, and she's helped me. We've had individual meetings here and there to be able to develop that part of my game too. The ACL injury was a big deal for me. It was a big deal for most people that sustain it. I was out for a very long time. I think with everyone, you have some really bad days and you have some great days when you make some progress. I think for me, having had a taste of international football from a very young age allowed me to kind of strive for more during that tough period. And having kind of sustained that injury so close to getting my first senior cap, in a way was heartbreaking, but it allowed me to kind of keep going, because I knew I was nearly there, and I knew I had the ability to get there someday if I just kept at it. So pros and cons to the timing of it, but overall probably was a blessing, because I knew that I could get there if I just kept at it. Fortunately or unfortunately, I tore my ACL as the world was shutting down because of COVID. So it just meant that from one perspective, I had the time to put into my rehab, but from another perspective, you know, I was doing everything in my house. I had little access to a gym in the first few weeks, first few months, little access to equipment that I needed to start building muscle back in my quad. So it was very difficult, very lonely for most of my rehab. So definitely was tough, but as I said, from another perspective, I couldn't really go to the cinema with my friends. I couldn't go out for dinner. Everything was closed. So I had the time to put into the rehab as well. Yeah, it was difficult. You know, luckily, you know, I'd been playing football for how many, 15 years before that. So I had a lot of people that I could lean on, you know, previous clubs, previous individuals that I knew, previous medical staff that I knew that, you know, I could reach out to get additional input. You know, and throughout probably the last few months of my rehab, I signed back with my old club, Slovakia FC here in Ireland, and they were fantastic, you know, in their support both on and off the pitch. You know, I'd go up to training, and you know, I wouldn't be able to train initially, but I'd be running beside the girls, and they'd be checking in on me as I arrived to training. You know, kind of asking what stage of the rehab was I at, when would I be back playing, and you know, having that support from both the girls but the club in general, and making sure I had everything that I needed was fantastic, and I really did appreciate it. So you know, I owe a lot to Shells from that perspective. I think I would allow myself to probably be more okay with the time out. You know, as a professional athlete or as a high competing athlete, you want to do everything as quickly as possible. You want results now, you want them fast. And unfortunately, if you force a process like that or recovery process too quick, you might actually end up taking a few steps back. And unfortunately, that is what happened with myself. You know, I probably tried to hit some metrics too quickly, and my knee wasn't too happy about that. So, you know, all in all, it took me 18 months to get back, whereas it probably should have only taken me 14 months or, you know, 12 to 14 months. So, so that was, you know, a lesson that I learned the hard way. So yeah, I probably would have just told myself to just take it a bit easier on the recovery process and allow things to happen a bit more naturally. Professionally, I think I'd love to play in the WSL. It's probably the biggest league in the world at the moment. So much investment going into it, especially since, you know, the English women's team have just won the Euros. So that's probably from a professional standpoint where I want to get to. And then from an international perspective, you know, qualifying for a major tournament, we've never done that, you know, with the women's team. So that's definitely high up on the list, and you know, hopefully we'll be there next summer. Luckily, I've been able to represent my country since the age of 13, so and it never ever gets old. You know, with every cap that you get, it gets better and better. So you know, the competition now in women's football is immense, and I think as the years have gone on, it's probably meant more, as I said, just because there's so much more competition now, so many more girls playing, so many more resources going into it. So the competition is really, really high, so you know that if you do get called in and you do get the opportunity to play, it's a massive deal, and you know, it just means the world.